Darling, won't you take my hand?
All right, coming in hot. Soccer Dad Pod time live from Midtown STL. We're live.
We are.
People listening.
They're like, oh, that's so cool. It's a live one.
Yeah, don't turn around. Please don't come to Midtown. We are probably not here. Just kind of fun to say it that way, though. Like I said, coming in hot today. I figured out my workaround.
Oh, yeah?
On the music.
Okay.
And it's kind of a shitty workaround, but it works.
All right.
When you play U2 or Bruce Springsteen or anybody else owned by the Overlords, the Overlords want their cut.
Yeah.
But if you play independent artists that are from St. Louis or other, they don't want to cut. And I'm not taking advantage of them.
No.
You're
called giving them play.
Bingo, the promotion.
Yes.
So I will be sending them a bill. Actually, I won't. If you like this one, this is a new song called Darlin'. Adam Gaffney, Gaffney, from St. Louis himself.
I like it. I like the slide guitar. And, little kind of a
little honky-tonk
Charlie Daniels vibe to it. I like it.
So take that, Spotify.
Yeah.
No email coming this week.
Or we could just have somebody sponsor the show just for the music.
Good.
Just a music budget.
Yeah, right. Please pay for our attorney. That's going to be a little bit more than the normal ask, people.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of, that's our casual ask. If you're interested in being a sponsor, it's time. We've grown. Get your name out there. Whatever widget it is you want to sell, we can help. Maybe. No promises. We'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
Soccer Dad Pod, we have been on a little bit of a run lately, like I've said recently, getting into the groove. Last episode was me and the other numbskull, Mr. Gerard Bertrand. Yep. We had the honor and privilege of speaking to St. Louis soccer legend Dan Counce, Counce, in case you're wondering. I thought it was Kuntz. I was corrected. Counce. 3-time NCAA champ with SLU back in the day.
Yeah.
Herman Trophy winner, MVP, collegiate MVP winner, 10-year pro, even more years in the front office. And what's ironic is in you know how things go on the show, like the 1 degree of separation.
Yeah. Our
guest today, and we'll find out, I'm pretty sure was brought to his first pro job as a player by our previous guest. How about them apples?
Well, it's just every episode we have, it just strengthens the web and tightens it a little bit on St. Louis being part of the soccer fabric of this whole country. And I know we talk about it ad nauseum, but
yeah, there are people like we know.
Yeah, so I'm not going to belabor it. It's just another example.
Yeah, it was awesome though. Great stories from back in the day. Kind of walking it up through the early days of MLS too, from Dan, Mr. Counts in the front office, and it was a blast. Go check it out. The episode before that though, I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that as well.
Because what was supposed to be a simple high school project, from a friend of ours, young man that was a teammate of our son's for a period of time, Junior Bill over there at SLU High, Mr. Carson Hall. He had reached out to me, pinged me, hey, Mr. Anderson, I'm, project at school, we're doing podcasts, or I'm doing a podcast. I was hoping you'd be able to help me out. Would I be able to interview you? And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Sure.
I like doing that kind of stuff. Tried to figure it out. And that's why I didn't reach out to you guys at all, because I thought, this is going to be a 5-minute, hey, what's your name? Where'd you grow up? What do you do? Because that's, and I love when kids get engaged in things like that. Yeah. But that's been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was wrong.
You were.
So he came in fully prepared.
Yeah.
You guys didn't know about it.
Nope.
And I actually, once I was done with the conversation, I literally was like, Mr. Hall, could I use this recording as an episode? And then I tossed it out there. And you were like, whoa, okay. You were like, this is good.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I loved it. I loved that Carson and his instructors at SLU High really pushed for a quality type of project. And Carson, I thought, went above and beyond. I mean, he did his homework. He researched you. He listened to the show. He had an idea of what he wanted to get out of the interview. He prepped you with questions. And it sounds like he would like to go into some sort of journalism at some point. I mean, I didn't ask him that, and I will, or his parents next time I see them. Shout out to Jeannie and Cavs Chris.
Yeah.
For this kid, but he did a great job, and that's a really impressive showing for a kid.
So here's how it relates to you, the listener, if you did miss it. He came in here asking questions about kind of the origin of the show, but he very quickly got into theme. What are we trying? What story are we trying to tell?
Yeah.
What are we trying to bring to light? Where is the education in these conversations? Dream guests, favorite guests, things like this. And it was really kind of like almost like a little bit of an awards show, almost like a Golden Globes, right? For the show.
Yeah.
Because he picked it apart in a great way. And he asked questions that I didn't really think about or don't think about, on a normal day in, day out cycle when it comes to the show and what we do. So kudos to you, Carson. You killed it. I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me release it. I want to talk about something real quick here too, because it is that time of year. We just said we don't like to talk about St. Louis soccer ad nauseum because sometimes, it does feel played out, and I mean that with all due respect in the world.
No, I know what you mean. Trust me.
But this week, at the time of this recording, which by the time you are hearing this, it is past. It is the 2026 inductee dinner for the St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame.
That's true.
I just want to really quickly shout out a few names. At this point, I'm going to say our past guests. Congratulations on being nominated and inducted into the 2026 St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame. Up first, my man from up north, Mr. Shane Battel. He's in. Great story. Go back, listen to that episode because there's an incredible, just his path and how he ended up pro. Blow you away. Over on the women's side, one of my favorite people, Jackie Billett. She's getting in this year.
Oh, that's great.
And it's funny. We see each other a lot around soccer fields because she's got a kid same age as mine, daughter, same age as my son, and was kind of like talking about the event and her speech and kind of helped her out a little bit. So I hope it went well. And then Mr. Larry Julius.
Okay.
Where is he at now? I think he's at Gallagher over on the girls' side on Illinois, I believe. Maybe Gateway. I don't know. I loved Larry, though. Always poking bears in a good way.
Yeah.
Knows his stuff. And then last but not least, of our guests, not of the inductees, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Tom Strunk.
Yeah.
He's in this year. So well-deserved for just, where do you start with a guy like that? From a player to a philanthropic just hammer on making sure we remain relevant in the game.
Well, he's one of the guys that, we always make fun of the clubs for being run by soccer guys. And Tom is a soccer guy, and he played and all that. But I think he's become more of a business guy.
A little bit.
And I think, honestly, you talk about the connections and the throughput for St. Louis. Without guys like Tom Strunk, Pat Barry, that create the infrastructure to allow these clubs to thrive, to have the funds to pay the coaches and have the facilities, we don't have that culture.
Yeah.
It goes away.
Yeah.
So having somebody like that inducted makes all the sense in the world, probably a little too late, in my opinion. But I'm so excited for all the inductees.
Yeah. Congratulations, class of 26. A lot of things going on in the world of sporting news. We're not going to talk about normal news. Sporting news. We'll stay in that lane today.
It's probably a good idea.
Otherwise, my head's going to explode. What do you got? Point of the day.
I'm just
Which is back. Your name here. Point of the day is back.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
My point of the day would be the fact that my beloved EPL team, the Tottenham Hotspurs, are just terrible. 5-game losing streak in the EPL.
That's
At the time of this recording, they were down 5-1 to Atletico Madrid.
Oh my God.
In the Champions League. So they're 1 point away from relegation with about 8 weeks left in the season. And there's a real possibility they could go down. And it could be the best possible thing for that club to be humbled and have ownership take a real strong look, because if you look at the managers that have helmed this club, they're not crap managers. They're good. And they go on to have better careers after Tottenham. They had great careers. They get to Tottenham, not so good. They leave Tottenham, things are better.
Do you in sport historically, up until, the last 20 years or so, for example, in baseball, the Red Sox.
Yeah.
The curse of the Bambino, right? The Spurs have something.
Yeah. They're more like the Cubs, I think, than the Red Sox, because they just have that kind of gritty.
Well, they did have a fleeting moment,
right?
Not the big trophy, but
they did win a trophy last year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's been rough to watch, but yeah, that's my point for the day.
So it's funny you bring them up in the kind of negative love light. From a negative love light perspective, because I'm going to go on the other side of that chocolate heart, so to speak.
Okay.
I think the most underrated, untalked, the least talked about story in soccer that is just an amazing story, and we've skimmed over it, Wrexham.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I watched the extra time of Wrexham hosting Chelsea.
Yes.
With only 10 men, scored an equalizer, and then had another one called back because of a crap offsides call because of VAR, which not a single player on any team with Wrexham has ever had VAR. And the one time they do, it takes a goal away to tie Chelsea in the FA Cup.
So first things first, the right team won that game.
I know.
But if you just back up a little bit and you think about the nature of professional sports in general, but soccer in particular, with the amount of money that these teams are worth, what is spent on these contracts, transfer fees, we're in the realm of tens of billions of dollars each year.
Yeah.
At the elite level. Mm-hmm. And here comes Wrexham. The 4 years ago, roughly 4 years ago, following the purchase, and our two little, Hollywood nerds step in and start they really did it for documentary purposes.
Yeah.
They thought, okay, if we can break even, but it's a really good show, win. And here they are, 3 divisions higher, about to go to the next level.
Yeah.
Because they're in the playoff picture for the championship.
Yeah.
So this $14 million investment, I think, is what it was out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's estimated that if they do make the championship, that team will now be worth somewhere around $380 to $425 million. And you have to, at this point, well, shit, guys, keep going.
Right.
Because if they do make it to the championship and then can squeeze up into the top 3 next year, that $14 million investment will now be 600, 700, 800 million.
Yeah.
Playing in the Premier League. I mean, I would say this is a Hollywood script, but it is literally
and if you think
a Hollywood
about it
script
from a true dollars and cents standpoint, $14 million is nothing
for them.
No, for even the MLS.
Oh, true. Yes.
Could you imagine if a $14 million USL? I would imagine USL teams have a budget similar to $14 million.
Well, they're probably worth more too.
Right.
Yeah.
But they would never get the opportunity to get in even into the MLS because we paid $500 million just to have the rights to a name.
Yeah, and I think that my takeaway from the whole story is really, here in U.S. soccer, we're trying to figure it out, right? We're trying to figure out how do we elevate. And in fact, today's guest, we're going to be asking questions about that. When you see a story like Wrexham and their trajectory, it's because of the institution. It's because of the organization. It's because of the clear-cut ladder, or the pyramid, so to speak, of top to bottom. Top to bottom, they're all under one. There's one patch, the FA.
Yeah.
I love it. That's my point of the day. We were both on the other side of the pond on that one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the line, our guest for the day, we're going to be talking more soccer and more soccer. So thanks for listening. Give us a like, review, follow, share, all that stuff. See you on the flip side. Be right back.
I like to spend my days.
Pre-College Development Academy is live right here in St. Louis, a strategic program for high school grads that are looking to take the next step in their playing career, but are either not quite ready for the leap or are not satisfied with their options. The PCDA program helps players prepare for the college game and explore new options that were not available their senior year. In addition, the program can help shift a player's 4 years of eligibility to the last half of their college and potentially grad school experience. PCDA, a gap year to grad year solution. Hey everybody, what's up? JB here. We are back. Quick break is over thanks to post-production. Our guest is on the line, has jumped in. And just a reminder that if you would rather watch us talk about soccer as opposed to listen to us talk about soccer, we're on YouTube and Spotify video. We're moving up in the world, Zach. So you like that?
I do. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you send it to your son, right? I'm sure he's going to show all his friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I forgot to ask you. How is Grady doing?
He's doing good. So we dropped him off on Sunday to go back, and he got home. He flew by himself for the first time. Yeah, my son Ross is a 17-year-old freshman, and he flew to LaGuardia, had a 4.5-hour layover, and then had to get in and get his rental car or get his car out of the parking garage and all that kind of fun stuff. But he made it, and he had gym at 5 a.m. the next morning, and he made it. So
hey man,
he's grown up.
Kids grow. What his next spring preseason is UNC.
Spring preseason on Saturday the 14th at UNC Chapel Hill. We're going to get to that, and then Harry's game, which is the charity match that they do, will be against Wake Forest at home, and all proceeds go to the Down Syndrome Foundation that Coach Heaney supports for his son.
Well, there you go. Congrats on
Awesome.
Grady's elevation to semi-adulthood.
Yeah, it's great. And he got 45.
Did he remember his socks, though? I mean, let's just really get down.
Yes. Yeah, he got all his gear. All
right.
He actually got 45 minutes in his first game.
Well, moving up.
Yep.
So, our guest today has St. Louis ties. We didn't know this.
We didn't know this.
Just brought it up. It's like all roads lead back. Normally to the city, but in this case, we'll give a pass because the valley is close enough.
It's close enough.
With a father, I'm going to lead in that way. With a father hailing from Chesterfield Valley, our guest today, joining us to talk all things soccer, Ross Paule. How's it going, Ross?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited about it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. As I mentioned just a second ago, every so often there's a few like senseis, that are in our market, that are in our circle, that they're, hey, how's it going? How's the show going? Have you talked to, or I got this guy. Well, one of our favorite booking agents doubles, as Dan Donegan. He hit me up with your name. He's like, hey man, you got to hit up Ross. Great guy, great insight. So here we are. So thanks for saying yes, first off. But for our listener, let's kind of, put a little, as I say, put a pin in the map. Let's get a little bit of background. You know, you have some family ties to St. Louis, but you are not from St. Louis. Where'd your soccer career start as a little guy? What's home?
Yeah, home is Memphis, Tennessee. Born in Memphis, Tennessee, and then at a young age moved to Plano, Texas. So a lot of my youth started in Dallas with some legends in there. Charlie Kadepski and Hassan actually were a part of a club that I joined then. So that really got me started in Plano. But then we moved back to Memphis, and that's where I really got into the club environment with the Memphis Football Club. And we're used to traveling up the road to come to St. Louis and play some great clubs there. I remember a lot of my youth. I remember coming up there and playing some great tournaments with some really talented players that I continued to play against all throughout my whole career. But from Memphis, went to Creighton University. And chose Creighton University. I had a lot of choices, and a lot of people wondered why I chose Creighton University over the. Yeah, go ahead. Where you had a question?
No, who was the coach at the time?
Bob Warming.
Oh, of course, yeah. I was gonna say, I bet you.
Yeah,
bet it was.
I was going to come to it.
It's 6 degrees of Bob Warming is what it comes down to. Yeah.
So let's talk about that because. Memphis for our generation, because we literally are months apart in age. Memphis, it didn't have teams. It usually had a team, right? And it sounds as if you were on the team. So to stand out in that market and then be given the opportunity of options to go play at the next level. Can you talk about your own personal experience as far as, maybe your own expectation as you're playing in the high school years, playing club ball? At what point did you know what, I'm just going to put words in your mouth. I'm good at this. I want to go to the next level. And here's quote where I want to go. What was that like for you?
Well, it actually started before all that. When I was in Texas, when I got into soccer, I was big into soccer, and I also was big into baseball. Both of them were passions for me, and I just loved playing them both. And I was 10, 11, but during that time, they started looking at the baseball side. Maybe you can join our Little League World Series group, or you need to join this club, which was Storm at that time. And I had to make a choice really then, because it really was one or the other, just because you couldn't do everything that was out there. As dads know, moms and dads know, it's very difficult having kids that play multiple sports. It's possible, but going back to that, when I got into soccer, I remember my coaches just teaching the skills side of the game, and I would go home and I would practice. I had 3 brothers. We would go outside, we'd play against each other, and we would try to do the moves, and then go back. And instead of having just the joy of playing, I started getting the enjoyment of learning, the enjoyment of learning the skill and using it in games. Then fast forward going into Memphis, I think I was really lucky to be in the environment that I was in. If you look at the team that we had at that time, there were multiple players that all seemed to have dreams, ambitions to move to a higher level, and names like Richie Mulrooney, Kerry Talley, Johnny Walker, all that moved on to Major League Soccer, and just from our little one team in Memphis. So having the environment with other players around you that also had those standards and trying to raise your standards and get somewhere was huge for me. We played high school also, which I think was very important part of my career, because it's different. You go into the high school environment where you're playing in an environment with your peers around, and they're watching, so it kind of prepares you for the college environment a little bit more from that standpoint. But I'm not being arrogant in any way, but I always believed that I was gonna be a professional, and nothing could convince me otherwise. And I was gonna do the work to get there. So any time in the pathway, if um, I wasn't gonna let anything get in the way with where I was going, and I was going to do the work to get there. And I was again lucky to be in the environment where there were others around me like that,
So,
and I think it's important.
so as you enter, you're working through your junior year, going, approaching senior year, because back in that time, that's when the conversations would have realistically started. Do you remember, some of that first tranche of inbound calls, who was calling? And then on the flip side of that, at that time, did you have a dream school or your own quote reach school? Well, what did that look like going into your senior year?
Yeah, I actually didn't have a reach school. I wanted to go to a school that was going to be competitive to win a championship. And I remember back at that time going to regionals. At that time is when a lot of the college coaches would come to. They wouldn't go to like it is now, where the college coaches are lining these events. It wasn't like that. They would be at the top events, at the regional events, like in the nationals, at when we're trying out for the youth national team games, those types of things. There would be college coaches there. But I do remember back then our mailbox was stuffed full of these packets that would come in, and then the coach would call, and then the coach would ask if they could come have a house visit and talk. And Bob Warming was one of those that came to our house. And if you know Bob, he can really sell what he's gonna do, and he follows through with it for the most part. I do have a story about not following through, but but
We won't tell him.
no, Bob knows. But I had some great choices: SMU, SLU, Stanford, UCLA. I mean, it was there were Virginia was another one, and that Virginia was the place to go at that time. That was where all the national team came from. So looking back, should I have pursued something like that? I would say no. But for me, it was about going into the right environment that was going to help me develop myself and be a part of a team that could accomplish something.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me. And then the education side was also big. I took pride in everything that I did on and off the field. So I wanted to make sure that it was a place that was going to support me from the educational side too.
Go ahead, Zach.
No, it's so funny. We were talking on the intro just about those degrees of separation, and to hear you talk about Bob Warming, and the impact he had on St. Louis and so many other players, but your connection, it just keeps spreading, right? And we'll get into where you really got into the coaching side, but I love the transition that you made, because you had a goal to be pro. You knew you could go pro, and you didn't even let graduation from Creighton stop you from going pro. So can you talk about that? Because you said your education was really, really important, but you decided to jump a little early. So talk a little bit about the decision that you made there. How did you come to that, and how did you come back to the education?
Yeah, it was not an easy decision, and it wasn't something like I was going to Creighton knowing that I was going to leave early. It had nothing. There was no plan from that standpoint. For me, it was about what my goals were and the environment that I was in, and the environment with Creighton was great when we were in season. When we were in season, you're training, you're playing games. And I loved that. And I loved our group, and our coaches were excellent about making sure we were all developing as players and as people, and staying in line, and with graduating. After my second year, I really started to get frustrated because of the limitations of how much you can train, how much coaches can train you, uh, and 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 it was nonstop. Myself, Johnny Torres, um, Daniel Hernandez, Richie Marooney, all finding ways to train more, and that's just the sad part of college sports is there's limitations on players like me that want to do more. I understand there's the other student athletes that don't want coaches to do more. But for me, I needed it. I wanted it because I had something to do after college. I wanted to play at a higher level, and you got to be ready for it after college. So I really started thinking, is there another option? So every summer, I would leave straight away and find a place to go train in Europe. I trained at some of the best academies, PSD, Werder Bremen. Then I went to Coventry City, and then so I did that the first year. The second year, after the third year, I went thinking I'm going to try to find a contract, and so I started thinking I need to start thinking about what's next. I can always come back and get my education. But I can't always develop with where I am right now. Being 18, 19, 20, 21 is some of the most important times of a player's career. And it's the hardest time for a player to try to go into the adult side of football.
Yeah.
So that's when I looked, okay, MLS, now I have that option because that wasn't an option before.
Right.
So that's when the decision came for me to do what was best for my career. And it was a big risk, believe me.
Will you take a second and maybe I want you to potentially just give us your opinion based on your own experience and then the accumulation of coaching that you've done over the years. Because you kind of were addressing that while in Texas and then obviously in Memphis as well, leading up to your college days, that, you know, everybody was being trained technically. Everybody was doing kind of, you know, doing the drills and, you know, juggling or whatever it is, the technical side of the game. But we hear time and time and time again that technical, tactical, and physical, all those things are, you know, there's not a lot of delta between the haves and have-nots anymore. Everybody's really, really good at those things. But then there's this mental side, you know, the fourth leg of this four-legged stool, the mental side. When you think back in time to your experience and then projecting through some of the players that have been great players under you, can you point to maybe what it was mentally that differentiated you? Because, you know, everybody's fast, everybody can shoot hard, everybody can make the 30, 40, 50-yard pass. You know, when you look back, what was the difference mentally?
I think it always comes down to your reaction to what is happening in front of you, because you can't control so much what a coach does at times. So you can't control whether you make a team or not at times. And you always got to have that response and belief in yourself to move forward and move forward better from it without doubting yourself. And I look back and I tell kids this all the time now in my role, that it's really the attitude and the effort that they have and the habits that they are forming right now. Because when they become 18, 19, habits don't just appear. They're there because of what you're doing right now. So you need to make sure that you need to start that process as early as possible. And it's not saying that a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old has to have perfect habits. No, it's just starting to build good habits and become the habits that are going to help you long term. And that's really what I've seen at the highest level, where talent is the entry fee Everybody's talented.
Yeah, so I have a part B to the question. And I'm also going to tie together your own experience and a comment that you made earlier regarding high school soccer and how that's different and how it gives you something different. Because, you know, our kids have been in the MLS Academy world the last 4 or 5 years. You know, and we hear across the country people talking about we have extremely skilled kids. They're getting training and they're getting more training and they're getting the best training and they're getting all of this technical stuff. But it seems as if we are missing on the competition side, you know, and that drive and that grind. And here in St. Louis, you know, we're lucky. You know this. Our high school soccer scene, while the skill level isn't what academies are, the competition is incredible, right? And that's a different skill that kids in particular learn. Do you think that this is something that U.S. soccer in general, you know, now I'm kind of crossing over into your current world as well, is this something that we should really pay way more attention to, and that is finding a way to create competitors at a higher level as opposed to just technical players?
Absolutely. You have to learn how to win when things are going well, and learn how to win when things are not going well. The game is played to win, and you put your team out there. Every player steps on the field to try to win the game. You don't play to look pretty and all that. That's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to be gone in an instant at the next level if you don't have influence in helping your team win a game. So winning and development should be together. You know, it's part of it. And I've read the key qualities of U.S. soccer. Winning mentality is one of them, and so it has to be paid closely attention to. I guess there's a difference too between what age and stage are they in, and are you winning at all costs? Are you helping players understand their strengths and what's going to help them have influence through them to win a game? And so, I mean, I don't think you can separate playing a game and not trying to win.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm not built that way. But I do understand there's a line between helping a player develop to a further capabilities to play at a higher level and win, because there's players at the young ages that are winning right now just because of being more physical. But you know, I think we can help players understand other areas they're going to have to develop in order to continue to win at a higher level.
Where do you think comes? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. You talked about how when you were at Creighton, you and Johnny Torres and a couple other folks were looking for extra training because you wanted to get an edge. Where does that drive come from? Because I don't think it's just about creating a winning mentality, right? That's there are kids who just have a competitive edge and will try to beat you in anything that is available, right? Whether it's cards or whatever. If there's a competition, they're going to try to win. But to get the edge on your opponent takes strategy and dedication. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily the same quality as winning. Mm-hmm. So where do you think that comes from? Because I think that's the part that's missing in this conversation a lot, is we always say we want a winning mentality. Yeah, okay. But you also have to have the skill set and the repetition to know how to win in those situations. And that doesn't come just from, the 5 days a week at, an hour-long training from a high school. So it does take something extra. So where did that come from for you, and how are you doing that with club now? How are you helping them understand how to develop that part of it? Because JB mentioned, it's the skills are there. We can do technical training all day long, every day, and we can show you how to win. We can line you up in a box and defeat the best person. But what you talked about to get to where you are now, that's different. So what do you guys? How are you doing that to foster that?
Yeah, I mean, we have our programming within what we're doing, but one of the main priorities is helping kids understand how important intrinsic motivation and owning their own development is.
Yeah,
that's easy to say. But
yeah, that doesn't fit on a bumper sticker.
No, but in the end, it's the player that's going to end up doing it. Nobody can help that player besides themselves. And you either get that and you start, again, like I said, I had the enjoyment of learning something. It wasn't just doing something. It was for purpose of learning something. So there is no way besides helping kids understand where they are, where they want to get to, and helping them fill that gap of doing what it takes to get there, because they're the only ones that are going to be able to do that. And once they capture that themselves, that's when they truly will start to elevate. But other than that, they're pawns.
Let me ask you kind of a pointed question on this particular topic. We have done the due diligence on some research on, how many high school player only kids make it to D1.
Oh.
Meaning they didn't play academy. They only played high school for their high school, and they made D1. We know that's a very small number.
Yeah, under 5 here.
And Ross, what I would love to see is, this would be a self-reporting type of survey, but of the guys that made it to the MLS, how many of them just did club training and didn't do anything else? Meaning
0.
Exactly. So if we could harness that and say, listen, you think you want to play D1? Ask any one of these D1 players how many times per day or hourly they trained on their own outside of a coach's eyeballs. And I would imagine that number is in multiple hours per day outside of structured training. And so if you're not doing that, your chances of getting to that next level are...
Good luck.
Right.
Is that a number?
Yeah.
And I know we're talking theoretical,
like
but
number.
I just think it feels like we don't talk about that enough. And
I have it, like, I'm starting to feel as if, having personally attended, through our kids watching these events, I feel like we're almost like showcasing our way out of competitive individuals, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of a shift. Like, I structurally speaking, you can turn every single showcase into a tournament, right?
Yeah.
And it's still a showcase, but you put a little bit more of a carrot at the end of the stick. Because here's what I know to be true, and Ross, I'd love to get your take on this, because it bugs the shit out of me. When I go on Instagram, I bet you could go to any one of these events, and if you polled 100 kids at these events and you said, who are the top 5 ranked teams at this event versus who are the top 5 largest Instagram player accounts at this event, I bet you get more right answers on the Instagram accounts. And
no doubt.
And that disgusts me because I'm a boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm an Xer, but I'm a boomer. Right. And when it comes to this, so when you think about the landscape and you think about kind of the street cred and the drip and all this other stuff that is now embedded into these players' identities, how do you manage that or consult a young individual when it comes to that stuff?
Man, that's a lot of deep stuff right there with all that. I am
you thought you were coming on here for softball questions, man. We don't mess around, dude.
Yeah, I stay away from the majority of social media. I really do. I'm not a fan of it. I can't stand NIL. I can't. I mean, it's just like all this. We're gonna promote me before I step on the field. makes no sense to me. I think you should be rewarded by what you do on the field rather than at the higher levels, rather than what you're promoting yourself as, or in the companies, or any of that. I just don't get it from that standpoint. I'm not somebody that leans into that or ever will. But I think it's a problem. Yeah, I think it's a problem that there's more reward by having a good social media game over sometimes the players that are super talented on the field that don't.
I mean,
so that's the problem.
I mean, there was one game last year, I believe, at GA, and I'll never forget this. And I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name teams, but I know for a fact one team was losing literally 6-0. And the losing team, they had a player who puts one in with like 3 minutes left. And they run to the corner to all the cameras as if they were Ronaldo. And I almost was like, I'm going to be their parent for a second. It drove me nuts. But I think that I think that part of this is, and this is a conversion question / statement. I think this is part of the issue when we have so many governing bodies, we have so many patches, we have so many, not a singular pyramid like we were talking about earlier with the FA. We have a whole bunch of different ladders that are all different heights, and at different pitches, et cetera. And I think I'm wondering what you guys at US Club Soccer, right? How do you approach kind of more of the institutional structure, the teams? How do you make sure that parity is right? How do you make sure that competition, right? US Soccer is one of its mantras, winning mindset, or winning, however it is worded.
Right.
How do you look to integrate that structurally within an organization like US Club Soccer?
It's difficult. I'm not so much on the competition side. I'm lucky. I'm in a part of ID. I'm an ID2, which is open to anybody outside of US Club. It can be, so any player can be involved in ID2, no matter the US Soccer affiliation. So for me, I have more of a bigger picture. I get to see all the different leagues. I get to see all the different players. I get to see players that are not even in leagues. So I do know that a lot of work has been going into with US Club and USYS building a new comp to help hopefully move towards competitions where it's more unified, I guess, for the players. And so from the standpoint of the different leagues and different competitions, it's confusing. It really is. And every league has, good teams and has bad teams, and has good players and bad players, or not bad players, but players that haven't been developed. And so for me, I get to have a bigger picture of it. So I like my position because my goal is to find talent no matter where it is. And I don't have a bias behind who they play for, what club they play for.
So for our listeners and for us as well, when you say that you're out there, your job is to find talent, paint a picture. What kind of kids are you looking for? Where are you looking to take them? At what level? Where are we talking about on the hierarchy?
And even maybe back up just a bit, just to talk about US Club Soccer, to get an idea, because I don't think most of our audience knows much about US Club Soccer, and that's not to say that we need to before listening to you, but I think a little pitch, Ross, would be helpful, and then dive deeper into your specific role, just to create more context around the comments.
Yeah, well, I mean, US Club is one of the members of US Soccer, obviously, one of the biggest ones, and 700,000 plus kids playing across the United States in a competitive environment. And then there's a bunch of kids underneath that. And with ID2, which is a U.S. club, or a branch off of U.S. club, it's a program within it. Our job is to identify players in our country and develop them to help them reach their highest level that they potentially can. So we're identifying and developing them to their unique ability, but we want to find kids and help develop them to get into the youth national team programs. But knowing that very few get to that, we also are helping and developing the players that don't get there, that are also talented. Right now, we're only U14. Next year will be U14 and U15. So our identification process, we have scouts across the country. We're trying to find as much talent as possible. I do believe talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. So our goal is to widen the talent pool for the U.S. and strengthen that pool for the U.S. And like I said, it's open to any player that with no matter the U.S. soccer affiliation. Our programming is where we bring best with best in together and evaluate them in that new environment. So we evaluate them in their home environment. We select players and bring them into a best with best environment. And then we select even further beyond that with the best with best again, ended up taking them on an international trip or any type of programming that makes sense for that age and stage.
So let me kind of get a feel for, what level we're talking about. If we assume MLS Next academies, like the Chicago Fire, St. Louis Cities, and then the elite academies like Strikers in California or Delco or even Gallagher here in St. Louis. If we assume those are, quote, and I hate using this term, but the one percenters, as you funnel kids through the best of the best system at U.S. club soccer, when you get to the top for that age group, let's say you get to the best 11 within that pile, where are we talking? Are you moving them to homegrown academies, or is it keep it in house? What's that next transactional step for those players?
Yeah, well, it's got to always be do what's best for the player. At age 13 and 14, is it best to move a player and their family somewhere across the country to go to an academy when they could be developing fine in their home environment? Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing you got to always look at when an opportunity comes up. Is that something that is best for that 14-year-old that has got a long way to go? But an example behind what we just did is we just invited 102 boys and 102 girls to Chula Vista in February. And those 102 were scouted across the country, and mostly from ECNL. For the girls' side, also GA. For the boys, it could have been on the outside, some MLS Next. We didn't bring in any MLS academies because they're already scouted. They're already found. Right. They're already there. Yeah. So there's no reason for us to bring them in. And I know for 100% that the majority of that U.S. soccer is going to select is from academy. That just look at their selections for U15s, U17, U19. It's always going to be from them. My view of it is there's talent on the outside of academies that are just not selected as talent yet because that academy did not select them. And I can tell you, we had kids in this 102 that we had 26 MLS scouts at this watching all these players because they know there's talent out there outside of what they already have. So after that camp, now we're selecting 36 of those players plus all of our scouting before that into another camp where we'll bring them in and with best, and we'll play against MLS academies. We'll play against older age groups. The girls will play against a boys group. So we're always looking at raising the bar for what that next group looks like. But part of our role is not just to identify the players. We have to develop these players. And the way we can do that, we only have them 3-4 days, is exactly what we've been talking about before. What happens off the field, the habits, the intrinsic motivation, the character, the struggles, and making sure that they are supported and have the right mindset moving forward, whether they make something or they don't. Because like I said, you can't always control that. Most of these academy players at U14, U15, and the U.S. youth national team players, even at U14, U15, the majority of them may not make it long term. And there's going to be a bunch of players on the outside of that do, because they're the ones that had to fight for it. They're the ones that had to move forward with it.
Well, and the other reality about the age that you're talking about, and I've mentioned this 1,000 times, we're also talking about kids that are maybe in the first inning of puberty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit of growing left to do. You never know. Some kid that we don't rate, you're 5'8" center back. Well, wait 2 years and now they're 6'1", and all of that. So my question is, like, do you foresee maybe as ID2 expands, because you said that you're U14 now, you're going to add U15, is the goal to push up to a 16, 17, 18 age, so that now, when you talk about the gap in kids that are amiss, when you take that reality with the other reality that, in talking to a lot of Division I coaches in particular, there's a little bit of consternation when it comes to recruiting kids from MLS academies, because there's a lot of noise in that process. There's a lot of a dangling of a 2 offer in which you have a hard time closing the deal, and yet something like this could be literally producing kids in which there's not pro contracts or the promise of pro pathway in the way. You're literally just producing better players that are competitive. Is that kind of a goal in your mind? And I have to assume it's yes, knowing what you've told us so far, but how far are you going to take this thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're making sure we do everything with excellence, and starting small. That's why we're only adding one age at a time. So there are 2012s that we're working with right now. Next year we'll have 2013s and 12s. So when these 12s move up to the U15 age group, the way I see it is we will become U.S. Soccer's reserve shadow program. Basically, players that we have found that we're developing or a part of their pathway. We aren't the ones developing, the clubs are. We're bringing them into an environment and increasing that. But we will be a group or a organization that supports players that are in out of the youth national team, that didn't make it to the youth national team, that we believe are just as talented. And obviously the majority of our players on the boys side, if they're with us in that group of 35, 36, I'm going to say that the majority of MLS scouts are going to all of a sudden say, we want that player. So they may move on to that, to where ID2, I don't think there isn't as much space for supporting the academy player, because they're already in that environment. We need to look at the players that are in out. On the girls' side, though, there's when we get to U15, U16, the pool narrows, and the youth national team goes from, like right now, they have 60 that are going to go into a camp in May. In August, that's going to go down to 40. There is so much talent on the outside of that 40, and not just MLS. There's more MLS Academy players that are talented that won't make that, but there's also players on the outside of that don't. make it into that. So yes, there is a space for ID2 to continue to progress, and that's my vision. Is we want to make sure that we again are identifying talent in our country and helping them develop to their highest potential level. If that's the youth national team, amazing. If that's a dual citizen that isn't with the youth national team, can we help them play with their dual country?
Yeah.
Or can we help them progress to college and play at a high level in college and then progress to being a pro? My goal is to look back, and the players that come through ID2 in 3-4 years down the line is seeing a large percentage of them playing at a high level professionally.
So Ross, this is a great overview kind of the goals and the mission of U.S. club soccer, your role, ID2, et cetera. It is somewhat unknown to me, and I would assume then that a lot of the folks that are listening to this is news to them as well. And like the TPH and other services, the gap year program that we're promoting.
Yep.
This is another avenue for parents to learn more about opportunities to continue development for their kids that might have been overlooked, that might have been missed. So I know that you're out there identifying talent, but you can't do that on your own. Are there ways that folks can, promote their own kids, so to speak, towards programs like U.S. Club Soccer so that they might be noticed? That's part one. And then part two, kind of the structure of ID2, meaning is there a cost to parents once their kid is selected? Just talk about more some of the logistics of the program, if you don't mind, because I think it's an important avenue, and I love the service that you guys are building around this for these kids.
Yeah. So we do have a recommendation process, and that's where it starts. But that starts with the coaches. We don't have recommendations from parents, and I get a ton of recommendations from clubs, and we look at them. I look at them. I see them all the time. And some of our players that we've found are scouted because a coach has recommended a player or vouched for their player, have progressed in the program. And so our recommendation starts, that's the big bottom of it. And any coach can recommend a player to the ID2 program. And that's on our website. Anybody can go on there and recommend their player. As for ID2, another one of our principles outside of it's open to anybody is also there's no cost to anybody that's selected. So this is a true identification program. Now, when I say no cost, there is a cost to get to the event, but there is no cost to register. There's no cost to play. There's no cost for gear. There's no cost for coaching. ID2 makes zero money for U.S. Club. It's U.S. Club Soccer and Mike Kalina, his vision behind giving back to our country, our soccer ecosystem, because he saw a gap. And that's what ID2 is. ID2 fills that gap where U.S. Soccer only selects so many, and then you have all these other so-called identification programs, but they're really a pay to be identified.
Right.
They're basically, we'll take you if you'll pay this. Okay, you're not going to go. We'll find someone who does. ID2 is not that. ID2 selects players and removes the barrier of cost. And so for the 102 that we brought into Chula Vista, they had to get their way there. For the 36 that we're inviting to our next camp, we're paying for all flights and everything.
Wow.
For when we take our top group on our international trip, which we're forming right now, where the boys are going to go to England and compete against some of the top academies, it's free. Zero cost for flight, zero cost for anything. So it's a true identification program. And that's why when I saw this job opportunity before, when I was working with FIFA before this, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable, because it has everything that I'm passionate about, giving more players an opportunity that deserve it, and helping those elite players form that fourth pillar, what you're talking about the whole time. That is the pillar that's missing. And that's what we get to do in our programming. That's why I love what we do from that standpoint. So yeah, that's a little bit more detail behind
That's
it.
really exciting, and I'm glad we touched on that, because I think hearing that gives me some hope for the future. That I still struggle sometimes with the pyramidal approach we have right now, or the multiple pyramids. And I know there are kids that are falling through the cracks, that are good, that are strong, that are doing the things that they need to, but because of where they live, maybe they don't have access to one of those high-end clubs. So that's really cool. And I wanted to call it something, and maybe I'm stepping in something here, but your colleague, Sarah Harks, is that how you pronounce her last name? I think we've heard that name. And if you could make any connections with her father, that would be great. But yeah, so we had some folks from Kearney on the show.
Just a few.
Yeah, and John's legacy within the game is, I mean, it's legendary, right? And for his daughter to be working side by side with you, helping develop the next, version of that, it's just impressive. So can you talk a little bit about working with her? And I know we're not interviewing Sarah, but hopefully she'll hear this. But, just the organization as a whole, it seems like they're really going after strong talent to really make this program do something impactful. So just would love to get your free thought there.
Yeah. No, this is good. It's Lauren Harks.
I'm sorry. I said Sarah.
Yeah,
Lauren. Yeah.
Lauren.
He was hyper focused on the last name. Sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, sorry, Lauren.
So I call her Harksy because I knew John Harks from being a player, playing against him, being involved with U.S. Soccer and all-star games with MLS. So I got to know Harksy pretty well. And so when I was coaching at Creighton, I was looking through the portal and I saw Lauren Harks, and she was at Clemson. And so I was like, wow, I'm going to call Harksy. And so I started, actually, I didn't call John first. I called Lauren first. We had an incredible phone call, and we just talked, and what a bright mind she is. She loves the game. Cool personality, super technical, clean, smart player. I was like, I want you to come to Creighton. And so she came to Creighton for her 5th year. So it was such a neat experience having her there, and then having Harksy come in and see her play there. And I got to know John even more from coaching his daughter. But fast forward now, Lauren got the job at US Club before me. And then as I was applying for the job, I saw she was in there, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. So we connected dots there again, and working with her is great because I know her as a soccer player. I know her as a person. And she's somebody that is a rising star, I think, in the game, whatever she does, whether it's outside the game or coaching. But absolutely, I'll connect you to Harksy. You need to get him on the show. He'd be a good one on here.
Well, I just want to make sure, though, we have a litmus test. If he's one of those soccer dads that says kick it hard, he's out.
Ooh,
we love him, but
big kick.
Big kick.
No, he was silent. He was silent. He sat right behind the bench, though. He sat right behind the bench, but I didn't mind it because it was great. He was just sitting there listening, smiling the whole time. He loved watching his daughter play, and who wouldn't? She was talented. That's crazy you brought that up. Yeah, no, it's a small world.
Well, when doing a little bit of the research that we do for this show, when I saw Lauren's name and forgot that it was Lauren, not Sarah, I thought it'd be weird if she wasn't related to John, but I didn't want to assume, so I had to dig a little bit deeper to confirm that yes, she was indeed the progeny of the John Harkes. But no, it's just again that kind of the tight circle of this world and the impact that those relationships have on so many things. Because we talked about talent a lot, we talked about drive and winning mentality. It's also about being a good person.
Oh man.
And building relationships. And I think you're keying into that a little bit by talking about your relationship with Lauren and the fact that you guys, met up through the portal and then now you're working professionally. Can you talk a little bit about that from a pro standpoint? Meaning, I'm sure there are assholes that you played against. I mean, your expression tells me a little bit. But I mean, how do you teach that to this next generation, that it's not just about what you can do with your feet. It's not just about, between the white lines, but building those relationships, I would assume, is somewhat important to move up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you have to. And I had an amazing mentor in my dad, who also played sports there in Chesterfield, star football player, and all that, baseball player there. But he, super successful businessman. And he always preached, doing the right thing, having integrity in what you do. And I watched him live it. And he gave me some of the best advice when I chose that very, very difficult choice to leave Creighton University and go into the professional environment, which was a risk because when you go into an environment like that, you still have to make it, and you have to make it again, and you have to make it again, and then again. You never are made it on the team. You're always fighting for your spot. But he gave me the advice to go in, and any environment, he told me, any environment that you go in, make sure you're looking at the players that have been there the longest, had the most successful careers, and watch them, because there's going to be a commonality behind all of them that they have. And I saw it. It really is the relationships that they build keeps them there, because they're able to meet the next person that's going to help them continue to move forward or want them to stay around. And you learn from those people, the habits and how you treat people really matters, because it's going to come back to bite you if you don't. And that starts at a young age. The earlier you learn that, the earlier you learn that you're building relationships that could help progress you in the future, no matter what that is. Like with Harksey, someone like that, I have that relationship. She's great. Down the line, I see her, I would do anything to help her progress to wherever she is. So it's so important that these kids know that. And again, I'm going to say it, they're young. And everybody makes mistakes and all that. But in the end, you always got to just make sure you're trying to do things right with integrity and build relationships with purpose that will last.
Love it.
So let me wrap us up here. I'm going to come full circle here, because I mentioned earlier in the show that our previous guest, I assumed, and now I know definitively, has a relationship with our current guest, and that is, and I want to tie in together what you just said, kind of your dad's advice. When you're in the locker room, when you're on the field, and you're around these guys that have been doing it forever, make sure you pay attention. Mm-hmm. So when Dan Counts lands you in Colorado, who was our previous guest, and actually, if we go 3 guests back, between Marcelo and Tritt, who did you not want to talk? Who did you not want to play against the most in training?
Oh my God. Both of those are the worst to play against in training, because they'll just kick you.
True story. Like, this is so funny that because I'm looking at this, I'm like, Colorado, 97 to 2000.
I saw the same thing.
Dan Counts. So Marcelo has been on the show before. He was great in town covering city. But Tritt, he's my son's coach, assistant coach at Gallagher, and Granite City kid, grew up. He's older. He's older than me, Steve.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the question is, Desert Island, you get to choose Balboa or Tritt. Who do you want? Backing you up. It's a dangerous question, I know, but you seem to be a tough guy.
Yeah. Well, if it's north of the border, I'll take Tritt. If it's south, then I'll take Marcelo.
There we
love
go.
that.
That is a Swiss answer if I've ever heard.
To go even further on the connection piece, Bob Warming also recruited Aiden Heaney, who is my son's head coach at UNC Wilmington, who played against you in 90. What year was that? 90. No, it might have been a little earlier than that. He was a goalie for the New England Revolution, but was recruited by Bob. And just the connections are unbelievable. So,
It really
Ross, it was
is.
so good to talk to you,
Yeah,
man.
man.
This was great. I really appreciate your time. I know we're wrapping things up, but it was really good to learn more about U.S. Club Soccer, your background, and hearing about how we're trying to pick up some of the pieces that are left from these reorgs and all that. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah,
I appreciate
congratulations on the new role at U.S. Club Soccer. We'll be following. Please, as you're going around all these IDs, if you're ever in St. Louis, hit us up. Mm-hmm. We know some places that are not in Chesterfield that we
There are
think
some
you
good
might.
places in Chesterfield, by the way. Any guns?
No
Have you heard
offense
of it?
to, of course, right? So Ross Paul, appreciate it. We're gonna have a link to U.S. Club Soccer ID2 in the show notes, so go check it out if you're curious. And for those of you that made it this far, thank you. Like, review, follow, share. You know the deal. Soccer Dad Pod. We are out of here. Till next time.